Welcome to the Between Two Wheels podcast with Chris and Tyler. We're going to go over the circuit race in Golden State, circuit race Cinco de Mayo. Right, Chris?
Was it Cinco de Mayo?
Cinco de Mayo.
Okay, and this is a 35-plus race. So
35
Masters 1, 2, 3.
Yes, so we're going to do a two-camera action thing here. Right here, I'm not sure exactly how many laps to go, but things were stretching out. This is my camera, Tyler, and I was on Jay Newton's wheel of Pete's Coffee, and showing this to you because Jay starts the seminal break of the day soon hereafter. We're on the backside. We're going to take a left where these cones are, and that's where Jay's going to make his move. I got on their wheel because we were chasing someone down, and I knew that Pete's guys were going to keep it all together. So, Chris, I believe you are behind at this point. We're just coming in and taking this left-hand corner. And then you're going to, what were you thinking here? Did you know that Jay Newton was about ready to take off?
I didn't know what was going on at this point. I'm literally last wheel through that corner. I had done some work earlier and I fell back to the back to recover. But knowing that the pace had a little bit of a lull in it, I had a sense that something was going to be launching off the front. Generally, that's what will happen in this race. So as you can see here, we're kind of heading into a headwind.
And Jay just took off.
And Jay took off, not surprising, but the wind's coming into us. We're going to make a hard series of right-hand turns, and the wind will be off the left. And knowing that the pace is going to ultimately slow up through the upcoming chicane, knowing that it had just come back together, I feel like it's a good time for me to move up and be in a position to respond to something, right? And ultimately get off the last wheel.
So we're going to come around a little bit of a right-hand corner, and then kind of a big bow kind of goes to the left for this long stretch, usually into the wind, and as it was this day, it was into the wind as well.
Correct.
And Pete's kind of doing a little blocking up here. And who's up the road right now? Just Jay Newton, is that correct?
No, so I think Jay, again, I'm a little further back, so I don't have the ability to tell you who went when, but Jay is going up the road, and I think Chris Baker and Rick Reinhardt are up there, and he may be moving across to those two.
Okay, so now you can start to see from Chris's camera, you are going to make a move up. And, you know, young men, young girls, this is a good thing to, even old ones, to take into account is kind of the fire from the back. John Novikov just squirted the water on someone. Anyway, Chris, though, the attack's from the back instead of just right up the front like you see a lot of people. So good job here in getting on. Who's that, Scott Cox?
Yeah, so that's Scott, and he and I both go at the same time. He had a little bit more momentum, so I launched onto his wheel and followed him for a bit into the casino corner here, and it's about a kilometer from this point to the start finish, just to give you a sense of the course. But Scott pulls off here, and Jay is still up the road, and there's a small group that follows and attacks to get across to Jay, including Nate Pearson from Trainer Road and Larry Nolan from apparently today from Kronos Racing.
Well, you want to tell the backstory of that? So you join up with them, go through Baker and Rick Reinhardt, and jump on with Larry Nolan. Yeah, he's wearing Kronos shorts, the old Pete's team. And evidently, the rumor is, do you know it?
I think they're just shared shorts for this particular race because it was a last-minute entry for Larry. So he was desperate to race and would wear any kit.
Right.
But he chose a good kit, I suppose.
So back in the pack here, I don't know what Touchstone's doing. They're kind of sending a guy. I'm with them kind of because my man's up the road. But his guy, Chris Baker's up there. Now, maybe he sees that Chris is coming off. So this is just kind of things that happen. Chris, you're up the road leading things out. How do you feel at this point with a break in hand and the numbers-wise? What's kind of your
numbers-wise
of people having a break?
For numbers-wise, 4 to 5 I think would be good for this course. Jay's always good to work with in a break, and he's not one to shy away from work. I know Nate Pearson is got a good motor, so I was happy to see him there.
Scott Waters.
I don't know much about Scott. I do know that Larry Nolan's also incredibly strong, and kind of looking back at this point after I took a big pull, I could see that we had a little bit of a gap. So I was feeling motivated knowing that we could attach with Jay and get a good rotation going and hopefully stay away. At the very least, kind of soften the field up for you and John.
Right. So this was, an hour circuit race. They had it timed, and we're going in here to the last, 20 minutes or so of this race, and you guys, it's perfect timing for a break to kind of go off. Sometimes it's like you don't want to be that early break, which you had done the day before.
Right.
And our thing was John had got 9th, so as far as the Omnium, the overall goes, he was kind of out of it. So we were looking for you to get up the road anyway, and so this was a perfect opportunity.
Yeah, so we're still trying to chase down Jay. He put a huge dig in to get some separation, and we're scrambling to make contact with him. He ultimately looks back and sees that there's a small group working back toward him, and he'll sit up for a few seconds to let us latch on. I think we catch him just before that big not sweeping corner, the big kind of 120-degree corner where we started the video.
So is that him right there?
That's him right there,
okay.
Yeah.
So look, I just noticed you took a big pull, and then Larry came by fairly quickly. Were the pulls, the transitions pretty smooth up until this point?
Up until this point, it was a little chaotic, and I think it was just kind of scrambling to just go full gas to try and make contact with Jay. Once we connect with Jay, he had set up, like I said, to let us catch on, and he's still motivated, so he goes again.
It's not enough for him.
No, definitely not. He wants to get away, which is fair.
Right, and so he sees this mix, and he's probably like, oh, this is really good opportunity. I've got a little bit of firepower. He knows you. He obviously knows Larry Nolan. And, look, he gets a little break here. Now we're going to cut back to my camera. We just saw some R4R guys taking off. I mean, this is the speed of the field here. We're doing 22, 23. It's perfect time for you to, to really be getting up the road and look, 22. I mean, that's pretty stellar.
Yeah. So I put in a dig here to get Jay back in connection with our little group. So going through that chicane into the exposed freeway part of the course, we're back together again, and this is where we start to settle into a reasonable rotation. Through that headwind stretch that we just pulled out of, we lost Scott Waters, so that whittled our group down to 4 of us. So at this point, it's just myself, Jay, Larry, and Nate. But we settle in pretty quickly into a decent rotation.
Now, I've heard people say, the value of 6, I think was a number Linder had put out at one point of, hey, if there's 6 guys in your break, it's kind of the magic number of minimum. You don't want a certain number you don't want over, of course. And so now you're down to 4, but you're down to 4 with some serious power still, but it does get dwindled down a little bit later. Scott Cummins out. Is it still working together pretty good for you?
It is, yeah. And I think Scott coming out kind of jostled the balance a little bit, as you saw when Jay was pulling through there briefly. There was a little bit of a gap that he was closing down. But once we get that sorted out, we get into a pretty good rotation. And you noted that there's only 4 of us. One of the things that we were probably lacking to really stick this was having either a touchstone rider in there with us or an R4R guy in there with us. And obviously, we can't see what's going on in the group. If you toggle back over there, not sure where you are in the field, but it's in that group's interest, the R4R guys in touchstone, to work to pull us back.
I don't recall R4R going to the front to do any concerted pulling back. It was just kind of a mishmash of events and riders that kind of ended up bringing you back. And we'll kind of get, one of them there is Andre. He took a lot of digs. Let's go back to the front camera. He took a lot of digs, basically trying to, but it almost seemed like it helped you because he would take an attack and then it would sit up and it would kind of lull, and then he would take an attack and sit up and lull. So I didn't know if those efforts were actually more beneficial to you than just constant power. So
yeah, I think the surginess probably helped us stay away because Andre can go pretty hard, and so if he's jamming through and hurt into guys' legs, it's going to take a few seconds for somebody to recover and pull through. While if you had 4 or 5 guys sitting on the front of the field just pulling us back, we wouldn't be gone for very long. Looks like you're on the other screen there taking a pretty big effort.
I'm on Mark Tucker's wheel, who was trying to really do a good effort to pull you back. We're doing almost 28, 29 miles an hour to do so. But if we go make sure we're on and looking on your camera, this is up here where I think Larry decides to no longer be part of the break. So you guys are kind of slowing down. We're hitting the gas. We're coming up closer to you. Maybe he thinks this is game over.
That could be, and I think Jay offers some words of encouragement as he rolls through there, and then
were they positive words of
they
encouragement?
were. It was let's keep going. We're in this, and then he throws down the pace again, and I'm kind of odd man out here, so I got to take a big dig to reconnect with him again. He was very motivated to keep this pace going. It was really good riding with him.
So you're going. Larry Nolan actually comes off because what we end up seeing going back to my video is the catch of Larry Nolan. So he gets caught, and it comes back a little bit maybe to bite you guys in the end because at some point he decides to get on the front, and I don't know if we can show that, but he gets on the front to do a lot of work. How do you feel about a guy that was in the break, comes out, and then does a lot of work to bring you back, when he could have just stayed up there and had a handful of love and podium himself?
As somebody that was in the break and got pulled back, it sucks. For him, yeah, it makes sense. You don't want to fall out of the break and have that break stay away. I think if he had just kind of skipped a couple pulls, we probably would have been fine with it, knowing that, even if he just rotated through and didn't really pull through, if he just offered a hint of shelter for us, it would have helped us stay away on that last lap.
And and he has a big enough cred and big enough name where I think he could have skipped a few polls, done a little work still. And now, look, I don't know if he pulled off because he was just shot, or if he pulled off because at that point we were kind of making inroads.
Right, and I didn't really look back at that point, so I'm not sure how close you guys were. But like I said, after Jay offered some words of encouragement, we didn't see him again.
Well, you were close through the start finish, and then all of a sudden we dipped down there to the low 20s. You guys step it up again when Jay decides to go nuclear, and now Nate's on the front here. Nate Pearson rides for Trainer Road. He has his videos, does a podcast of Trainer Road. They're always talking about race stuff. How do you think his tactics were here? You want to critique his a little bit, like he does everyone else?
It's hard to really critique him per se. So one of the things that he told us after the race, or even during the race, is this was his third race of the day.
Yeah, he said that a few times.
So he's got some fatigue in his leg, and he's getting in a break with 5 guys initially. It gets whittled down to 3. So you're getting less recovery time between your pulls. Your pulls are getting longer. So you're putting in some serious work, and getting in the draft with Jay is not particularly easy either, because he ramps up the pace quite a bit. So one of the challenges that we had is, I think we're probably coming into
the casino.
Coming into the casino with maybe a lap and a half to go, 2 laps to go, something like that. Is he ultimately runs out of steam with a lap to go and isn't able to contribute. And
Nate.
Nate. And I think had he just shortened up his poles and just offered us a hint of recovery just by rotating through, that would have helped us. It would have kind of eliminated some of the surginess that we ultimately had later on in the break.
Okay, so take us back to, we can count these times off, but how long of pulls were you guys taking? Do you know?
I would guess, it varied each time, 30 seconds, 45 seconds, something like that.
Were you cognizant of how long you were pulling and trying to dictate that out each time, or? Not
really. I would generally pull for as long as I felt I could sustain a certain speed while still allowing myself enough energy to be able to jump back on the back of the group and recover, knowing that Jay would be putting in similar amount of work.
Right. So sometimes when I've gotten these kind of situations, I'll look and see what the stronger guys, what they're, my clock to see what kind of pulls they're doing. So you can kind of match it or just go a little bit under.
Yeah. And
you're just going off of feel.
And you kind of have a sense, like, without necessarily looking at the clock, you know that you're out there for a long time or a short time. And you can kind of base it on benchmarks around the course. Like, oh, Jay pulled from this corner to this corner. Okay, so I need to pull something similar to be contributing the same amount to the race. And one of the things that really helped myself and Jay being able to kind of go all out in the break is, we got guys back in the group that are good finishers. Jay's got David Grunman. Jay's got Ronnie. Jay's got Kevin Metcalf. Jay's got Dan Bryant. I've got you and John Novikov. So, if we go all out in the break and we get caught with 100 meters to go, well, we still have guys in there that can finish. I don't think Nate had that luxury riding solo, so he's kind of all or none in this break, so he's got to empty it all out.
Right. Who was the Pete sprinters?
I didn't necessarily say sprinters. I said strong finishers.
Okay. And that's not a knock on them. Just in this. Oh, Grunman.
Yeah.
But even so, Grunman's a little bit different finisher than like a John or Josh Carling in that sense.
But if we get caught with, say, a full lap to go or a half lap to go, Dan or Kevin could counter a catch and stay away. Ronnie could counter and at the very least string it out to set it up for Grunman. So there's options aplenty for Pete's in here with Jay being up the road. It makes it easy for him to empty the tank and get.
Okay, so here's a move where I think it's Jimmy Miller.
Yes,
takes off up the road, and I go with him, and I jump up to him, and we're going pretty good. And I'm a little tentative here with him because I'm concerned that we're about halfway in between, and I'm concerned that we get more than halfway and kind of just string the field up further and bring you up closer. So I'm not going to do much work. He flicks me. I'm like, kind of, okay, so I'm going to pull through here. The wind hits us smack in the face.
Right.
At this point.
Yeah, when you make that turn, it's amazing how quickly the speed difference
At which
changes.
point I decided, and I looked over to him, and I'm like, teammate up there. And kind of, you could see my power numbers just coming down more and more. And I talked to him afterwards, and he laughed. He's like, exactly the same thing. He's just like, that wind hits you in the face, and we're coming around this side, which to me was just even more impressive. So this was our day. As you can see, I'm just shutting it down more. He's still not coming by. That's how he had decided not to do anything about it either. So I don't think we caused any problems because, if anything, we slowed it down enough for the field to catch back up to us.
Yeah, at this
dragging
point,
them up there.
We're still kind of a lap and a half out. We're still moving strong. We're still a really good group sharing the workload and thinking that we're gonna stay away. With 2 to go, Jay was really positive and kind of gave us 9 minutes to glory, guys. Let's go. So he was definitely all in.
Right. So I think at that lap and a half here, I just get caught with Mr. Miller, and it's the Pete's guys on the front doing their stuff. I think so. They're saying they're just going to slow pace this in here. So they're doing 24 or so, 23, which is probably the smart thing to do. You guys are up there in the 25, 26 range, still hammering it out. And it looks like Nate Pearson is still doing his helping you out at least. When does he kind of come? You said last lap?
Yeah, when we go through the start finish, I take a pull, fall back. Jay comes through, and then I see that Nate hasn't been able to pull through, and that's kind of his last effort being able to help out. He's able to kind of sit on, which makes sense for him in that moment. But ultimately, like you said, we don't hold it out.
At this point in the race, are you thinking? Is there anything you're thinking about? Like, hey, we still got this. I'm fried. I'm not going to be able to make it. Or do you remember anything back kind of with the lap and a quarter or so?
At this point, I think we're going to make it. I think we're going to stick it. I think based on the gap that we have, one of the challenges, we didn't really get any gaps. When we go through the start finish, you can hear some quick audio, but it's never enough to get a gap. And I don't think I looked back at any point just because I was so focused on trying to keep forward momentum going. But I think that we're going to make it still at this point. Okay,
I think you're doing around 29, I want to say, but flipping over to mine here, and we're doing 27 or so. Pete's on the front doing 27, 26. I don't know. This should be soft pedaling a bit more. Matter of fact, I get the fact that you're up front, you're just preparing. You make anybody else do the work though, and it's a little difficult. It could be touchstone, but
I see. Is that Larry on the right there?
Yeah, Larry's on the right. He's going to move up and start to do some work. Really trying to do what he can to bring you guys back. So we're ramping it up to 28.
So if you flip over to the other screen, this is where we fall apart. So we missed it, but Jay pulls through. Nate's not able to pull through, and Jay kind of ramps up the pace a little bit just to try and put a little extra sting in our legs, I think. Last lap.
I thought he told you he was running dry.
Jay?
No, Jay never did. He was always the go.
No, Jay was always go. He was very much all in. But he takes a nice dig to pull us along. It puts a sting in my legs. I've got to chase pretty hard to get back onto him and connect just before this turn, and then he kicks it up again. So I'm stuck chasing again. But we ultimately do come back together before that 120-degree turn.
Right. So maybe it would be, and I'm not one to critique someone in the break here, but maybe it would have been better that he just slowly ramped it and then really kicked that, about a half a lap to go, giving yourself more of a chance because it breaking up the consistency. So I'm on Pasco's wheel here, and it is just going. I mean, we're doing 450 or so, and I'm doing everything I can to try to hang on here. And I think it's Larry at the front doing 30, 31, 32. And we're cruising. So let's flip over to Chris here. And you're on the front doing, mid-20s.
Yeah, then we make this turn, and this is where we just kind of fall to pieces.
About a half lap to go.
I'm dying in speed. I spent a lot of energy chasing Jay back, taking a pull, try and flick him through. He's a little reluctant to pull through. And you can kind of see the speed differential here. We dropped considerably. I think we're low 20s, and you guys are probably mid to high 20s with some guys that see the break in sight that are really going to be gung-ho trying to pull us back.
Right. So we're doing, 27 here. Once again, I think Larry's just decided he's no longer having it. And I believe then you have Pete's on the front. I do get up here a little closer because it's go time for us, and I'm concerned about the sprint. So we'll be able to see some of that. Do you want to do a spoiler, whether you're going to make it or not?
I already have a few times, I think.
Oh, so you don't make it. And we do catch you on the last corner, which you'll see, but it's getting closer and closer here all the time. Once again, 27, 26, and you guys are doing, 25-ish. So.
Yeah, I think we were able to guilt Nate into taking another pull here for us, but it was kind of we go through that little chicane there on the backside, and I can hear Mark Tucker connect to us right around now. I can hear his free hub, and it looked like he may have had a little gap and got across by himself. So I go to the front and just try and take one last dig to try and keep us away. Again, I haven't really looked back to see where the group was, but
and then we have here, we're going to go to the main field. Pete's is on the front. Dave Callis attacks, and you're right. The Tucker, I think, had gone, and it was all at this point. It's a matter of time, especially with that last corner. When you come around the last corner, there's no chance for you guys to stay away. So you're coming into the casino corner here, and
there's still hope at this point. There's hope in my mind that maybe we have a big enough gap, and I'm completely redlined and don't know what's going on, and yeah, it didn't work out, unfortunately. Right. And there they are.
So we swarm you. We come around. Now, here's where I'm having trouble. I tried to get John going up there, and then he's right in front of me here, and he takes over. And he does a great thing. Mentally, I tell him where to go. You're going to see here in a little bit Chris Baker and Alex Holz come flying up right there on my left. And I'm like, oh, that's the move. You can just tell they're going. And John slots in behind them. In between them and Jeremy Patel. It's hard to see up the road because my day's done, but boom, slots in. John ends up getting third in the field sprint.
Right.
The win is Josh Carlene.
Yeah, he had a good lead out from, is it Greg White?
Yeah, and then I think Scott Waters was second.
Right, it looked like he and John came down to a bike throw. So we could have used Scott in the break. Would have been good.
Could have used him in the break, but you know what? He ended up the second place, and
that's
probably
true.
just as well. Yeah. Any lasting memories for this race, Chris?
Oh, it was
what kind
just
of power numbers did you put out?
For that last 20 minutes set, I think my average power was like 340, something like that.
So there you go, 340 to make the break.
340 to make a failing break, to clarify. If we had done 350, who knows?
All right, congrats. Thanks. Bye.